Unit 82. Myself, yourself, themselves, etc. These are called reflexive pronouns. Study this example. Hi, I am Steve. Steve introduced himself. Here, Steve is the subject and himself is the object. He is the subject and the object. When the subject and the object are the same, we use in the position of object, we use reflexive pronoun. We don't use object pronoun. We use myself, yourself, himself, reflexive pronouns. Steve is the subject and Steve himself is the object. So we say Steve introduced himself. We don't say Steve introduced him as an object, but we say Steve introduced himself. We use a reflexive pronoun in the object position if the subject and the object are the same. The reflexive pronouns are, for singular, if the subject is I, it becomes myself. If the subject is you, it becomes yourself as one person. If the subject is he, it becomes himself, she, herself, it, itself. But in the plural, if the subject is we, it becomes ourselves. If the subject is you, it becomes yourselves. And if the subject is they, it becomes themselves. For example, I don't want you to pay for me, I'll pay for myself. Here I am the subject and I am the object. So I say I will pay for myself. I becomes myself. We don't say I'll pay for me. We don't use the object pronoun me. We say myself because the subject and the object is the same. Julia had a great holiday. She really enjoyed herself. She is the subject and she is the object, so it becomes herself, reflexive pronoun, not her only. Because the subject and the object is the same, so we say she really enjoyed herself. Do you talk to yourself sometimes? Here the subject is you and you is the object, so it becomes a reflexive pronoun, so it becomes yourself. Do you talk to yourself sometimes? We don't say do you talk to you. We say do you talk to yourself. We use the reflexive pronoun. If you want more to eat, help yourself. Help yourself means you help yourself. You is the subject and yourself is the object, and the object becomes the reflexive pronoun, so it becomes yourselves. Compare. It is not our fault. You can't blame us. Here you is the subject and we is the object, so it becomes the object of we is us. So you say you can't blame us. It's our own fault. We should blame. We are the subject and we are the object. So we say we should blame ourselves. B. We don't use myself, etc. after feel, relax, concentrate, and meet. Certain verbs are not followed by reflexive pronouns at all. They are written and followed by full stop. So we don't use reflexive pronouns such as feel, relax, concentrate, and meet. I feel nervous. We don't write here myself. I can't relax. We don't write here myself. We just say I feel nervous and I can't relax. We don't use reflexive pronouns. You must try and concentrate. Concentrate here is not followed by yourself here as a reflexive pronoun, because the verb concentrate is not followed by a reflexive pronoun. What time shall we meet? We don't say we meet ourselves. We don't use reflexive pronouns after meet. We normally use wash, shave, dress without myself. The person, if don't use reflexive pronoun with verbs like wash, shave, dress. He got up, washed, shaved, and dressed without using a reflexive pronoun himself. You can also say get dressed. He got dressed. We don't say he got dressed himself. We don't use reflexive pronoun with these verbs. Wash, shave, dress as well. Compare selves and each other. What is the difference between selves and each other? Means reflexive pronouns and each other. Kate and Joe stood in front of the mirror and looked at themselves. They looked at Kate and Joe in the mirror. So they looked at themselves. They looked, the subject here, and looked at themselves. Kate looked at Joe and Joe looked at Kate. In this case, Kate is the subject and Joe is the object. Different. The subject is different from the object, so we don't use reflexive pronoun. Joe looked at Kate. Joe is the subject and Kate is the object. In these cases, each one of them looked at the other. So we don't use reflexive pronouns, but we use each other. You can use one another instead of each other, and each other can be replaced by one another. How long have you and Bill known each other? You and Bill. You have known Bill and Bill have known you. So here the subject and object are different, so we say each other. Or known one another. We can replace each other by one another. Sue and Anne don't like each other. Sue doesn't like Anne and Anne doesn't like Sue. So we say Sue and Anne don't like each other or don't like one another. Do you and Sarah live near each other or near one another? Do you live near Sarah or does Sarah live near you? So here it is reciprocal between them. That's why we use each other. So we say, do you and Sarah live near each other or near one another? We also use myself, yourself in another way. For example, we repaired your bike for you. I repaired it myself. Who repaired your bike for you? I repaired it myself. Here we emphasize the subject. The myself is not the object. Myself refers to the subject I, and it emphasizes the subject. To assure the subject, I myself, I only did the action. So we say I repaired it myself. I repaired it myself. I repaired it. No, not anybody else. Not anybody else. Here myself is used to emphasize I. It makes it stronger. Some more examples. I am not going to do your work for you. You can do it yourself. You is the subject and yourself emphasizes the subject. Yourself here is not the object. Yourself here is reflexive pronoun to emphasize the subject that you only can do, not anyone else. Let's paint the house ourselves. Let's means let us paint the house ourselves. Here ourselves is not the object, but it emphasizes the subject. It will be much cheaper. The film itself wasn't very good, but I love the music. Here itself emphasizes the film. It is not the object. Here it is in the position of subject, and it comes after the subject directly. In this example, I don't think Liz will get the job. Liz herself doesn't think she will get it. Liz herself here emphasizes the subject Liz. It doesn't mean herself here an object. Herself is the subject Liz. It emphasizes Liz. Or Liz doesn't think she will get it herself in another way.